The first question says, can a purchaser, or for that matter, a tenant, cancel a deed of sale, or a tenant a lease agreement if they find out that there was a murder on the property, or somebody had died, or let's say a tenant gets mugged outside the property and says, now I'm going to cancel this because this area is dangerous. I didn't know that, or that somebody passed away in the property. Can the tenant, cancel early? And then can a tenant also refuse to pay an early termination penalty? Cilna?
Yes, so that's a very interesting question, Chris, and it's interesting because I've been receiving that question quite a few times lately. Not necessarily murder, but questions with regards to people passing away in a unit, and then the unit's getting sold or rented out, and the person taking occupation, either as the purchaser or as the tenant, finds out that somebody passed away in the premises, wanting to get out of either the sale or the lease agreement. Is this material? Is this something that can be done? Now, interestingly enough, I actually had this exact argument yesterday with another attorney, and I said, well, depending on whose behalf you're acting, I suppose you can spin the story slightly differently, but I think the actual real answer, that's the polite lawyer way of saying, sometimes the law is a little gray, and how you present the facts and what was disclosed prior to the conclusion of the transaction is much more relevant than just a pure rule. We have nothing in our law, nowhere in our law, that says the fact that somebody was passed away in a property, or the fact that a property was broken into, or somebody was murdered in the property, means that you can excuse yourself from any contract with regards to that property. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which side of the deal you sit in, that's not something in our law. So what we do have is we're going to have to look at a lot of things. So starting point would be the actual contract. If the contract, the lease agreement, or the offer to purchase says anything about that, making it a material term. So there is a clause in one of these agreements stating that should it come to the purchaser or the tenant's attention that somebody was murdered or passed away in the property, they would be entitled to cancel the contract without penalties. Fantastic, then that's enforceable. But honestly, I can't see a clause like that ever appearing in any contract. However, if you market a property, so if it's marketed by an estate agent, you're going to have to look at the Estate Agency Affairs Board Code of Conduct. And now with the promulgation of the Property Practitioners Act coming into effect on the 1st of February, we need to look at those regulations. And the regulations require an estate agent to disclose anything that could be potentially material. Now, what would be material to you might not be material to me. For instance, for me to take occupation of a property where I know somebody passed away, it's sad, but I'm not superstitious or anything. I don't think superstitious is necessarily the right word, Bruno. You're going to have to help me out. But I don't have any religious rules or cultural rules or superstition or anything that would make that an issue for me. And I mean me, like actually Cilna, Petronella, Steyn, nobody else. I don't mind, but you might. Maybe it's a big deal for you. But how would the estate agent know? It's very similar to something that could be material for one person. For instance, when it rains, there is a lot of water running from the adjacent property onto your property. It doesn't cause massive chaos, and nobody's ever moaned about it, except you have a collection of very special arum lilies, and these floods happening into your garden, if it was just running over a lawn, wouldn't have caused a problem. But now it's causing a problem for you with your specific garden conditions. If something like that is material for you as a tenant or a purchaser, make sure that you make it known and include it in your application forms already in writing to say, you know what, Mr. Landlord, Mr. Seller, agent, please be aware of the fact that if there was somebody murdered in this place, or if there was criminal activity in this premises, please let me know about it, disclose it, because it's material to me. Now it is material. Where for anybody else, it's not. Remember, guys, we live in the world, and please don't say South Africa and crime in South Africa. This is not the only country in the world with crime. The world has crime. And if there was a break-in in a property, that never, ever allows a tenant to cancel the agreement. Because what would you do if you buy a property and you now have a burglary or something? And as sad as it is, unfortunately, it doesn't change the condition of the property. So the quick answer is no, it would not be material unless the tenant or the purchaser or prospective tenant or prospective purchaser makes it clear that these terms would be material. And for that exact reason, if it comes to a tenant's knowledge that somebody was murdered in the property, or somebody committed suicide or passed away in the property, and they did not say that these are material things for them in the lease agreement, unfortunately, the only thing they can do is a cancellation in terms of Section 14 of the Consumer Protection Act, and they will be liable for the full cancellation penalty in that regard.